Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Jake here at Nerd Level Rising. I have another installment in my series of going through my TBR, separating it out by decade, and just exploring sort of the history of science fiction, fantasy, and what came before, to be honest, right? And I think a lot of us do this when we first get into reading. We're reading a lot of modern stuff, and sometimes we don't always go back and explore the earlier things, and that's something that the more I read, the more interested I am in exploring those earlier stories and just seeing the influences and how all this that we have now came to be. So this is the next installment in that series here. I'm talking about the 1970s. So this is any series where book one was published sometime between 1970 and 1979. As always in these videos, these are not in any certain order. They're not ranked or anything like that. This is just the order I happen to write them down in. And the other thing that I'll say is the further I go back in time, the less I have on these lists, which I think makes sense, right? It's just harder to find stuff. People aren't talking, it's harder to dig up information and reviews and all that kind of stuff the further back you go. At least it has been for me in my experience. So I beseech you, please let me know in the comments if you've read some older stuff. Let me know if there's things that should go in this list that I don't have on the list. I'm very, very open to this. Let me expand my TBR even more. So number one on the list here is the Chronicles of Amber by Roger Zelazny. And it's hard for me to articulate what I've heard about this series. It seems to be, it's just kind of everything. It's just blending together a bunch of stuff. There's like crazy cosmic level things happening. There's like family dynamics, political intrigue. There's all kinds of stuff. So it seems like it's got some things that are familiar and things that we know and love quite well, but also some stuff that I haven't read a bunch of before maybe, right? It also kind of sounds like it's ahead of its time. Being back from the 70s, you sort of expect a lot of at least I expect a lot of very classical stories. But it seems like this was really blending together a whole lot of stuff. So I don't know. Maybe it was very progressive in that sense. I don't know. But book one, 9 Princes of Amber from 1970. Waking with no memory, Corwin finds himself in a magical kingdom and embroiled in a lethal struggle for the Amber Throne. As he regains his memories, he must outwit siblings to survive and to understand his true identity. So that sounds fairly straightforward, but from what I've heard about where the greater series can go, we'll see, man. We'll see. But it sounds like this kind of goes all over the place. So I'm excited to get to that one at some point. The next one on the list, another one that's maybe a little bit ahead of its time, I don't know, is the Dragonriders of Pern by Anne McCaffrey. I actually own, I think it's the first trilogy in an omnibus. It's back here on my shelf somewhere. But it's one of those that, you hear Dragonriders and you're like, oh, cool, like classic Dragonrider fantasy, right? And then some people come out in here and say it's a sci-fi series. And I'm like, dude, what? Like how does that work, right? So from what I understand, it's one where the dragons can talk and they are very influential in the world, but I don't know if they're aliens or if there's some kind of weird machine thing going on. I don't know, right? But somehow it's blending sci-fi and fantasy together here. But Dragonflight, book one, that from my research, it has 2 publication dates, 68 and 70. So I'm going to count 70, right? I don't know. Maybe this is wrong. Let me know in the comments if I just straight have this wrong, and it should be in the next video in the series. But here, Lessa, the last surviving dragon rider of her reawakens a time-traveling dragon to change the future of Pern. She must rally a new generation of riders to confront the returning menace. That sounds awesome, man. This is one I initially heard because Brandon Sanderson talked about it and being one of his big influences, one of the things he liked a lot when he was first getting into reading. So that's what initially put it on my radar. But the more I just think about it, the more it just seems awesome. It just seems unique. It seems different. It seems like a cool take on dragons that I haven't seen before. And I don't know. I'm here for it, man. I'm definitely here for it. This next one is one that I didn't, when I was reading through my list, I was like, what did I write down here? Like, what is this word? This doesn't sound familiar. And then after I read it a few more times, I was like, oh, it's dragonriders, right? Like, this is what I've heard people say. And I just hadn't, like, I had written it, I'd figured out how to write it down, figured out how to spell it, wrote it on my list, and apparently since then forgot how it's spelled because I just was not expecting this. But the Dragonriders Chronicles by Catherine Kurtz, a medieval-inspired tale of rivalries and human and magically gifted dragonriders, court politics, war, religious stuff, right? So this is one of those that feels very familiar, very cozy, very like home, very just fantasy tropes, stuff that we love about the genre. It sounds like it's just kind of all here, right? It's one of those kind of home base kind of fantasy series is what it seems to me. And book one, Dragonriders Rising, 1970, King Kelson ascends to power amid political plots and forbidden magic. He must lean on a secret Dragonri ally to secure his throne and prevent a civil war. So I'm excited, man. This is another one that I kind of think of in this similar vein as the Belgariad or as the David Gemmell books, things like that. I feel like I hear it talked about in a similar way, and it just seems like one that I'm really going to be into, right? I don't know if it's going to change my life, but I think it's going to be one that's just a really fun ride. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it does change my life. Who knows? But I think that'll be cool. A couple sci-fi ones to kind of round out my list. I don't have a whole lot, like I said, here for the 70s. One is The Forever War by Joe Haldeman. And this one seems to be, military focused, big sci-fi story. From what I understand, it's not so much space opera. It's not so much aliens. It's just more sort of a hard sci-fi and exploring more, I guess, future human oriented stuff. Could be wrong, but that seems like that's sort of what I've seen about this. In book one here, The Forever War, same title here, 1974. William Mandela enlists to fight an alien species. Oh, okay, there are aliens. Enlists to fight an alien species, only to find each tour of duty ages Earth decades. It is critical meditation on war, time, and alienation. So this seems, hearing that now, I'm just like, okay, wow, this is sounds like a very introspective story, a very philosophical sci-fi story that also has some of the military and I would imagine there's some battle scenes if there's aliens and stuff, right? So sounds interesting, sounds cool. I like that kind of little bit of a twist on some of that other sci-fi stuff that I've seen before. And I haven't read it, like I've said before, I haven't read a ton of sci-fi, guys. A lot of this is, it feels familiar because I've seen movies and played video games and read some books and stuff like that, but I haven't read a ton of it. It's kind of odd in that way. And the other one on my list here to finish us off, this is Rendezvous with Rama by Arthur C. Clarke. And this one is on the list really just because I've heard Arthur C. Clarke's name thrown around a lot as like one of the giants of sci-fi. And so I was just trying to find something to start with him. And I was like, I've heard people mention this name before. Why not start there? I don't know. So let me know in the comments if there's a different series or a different book that would be a better starting place for Clarke. Let me know. I'm very open to that. But this seems like it is, I don't know. It sounds kind of similar, just the general gist of the series from what I was sort of reading about. It seems kind of similar to Forever War, right? There's some alien stuff going on. There's some hard sci-fi stuff. There's a lot of, it seems to be sort of pensive and thoughtful and philosophical in some ways. And I don't know. I would imagine there's, if we're seeing alien races and stuff, I would imagine there's battle scenes and some military kind of stuff. But anyway, right. It sounds like hard sci-fi as well, right? Which is something that I have not read maybe any of yet in my memory. I don't think so. So we got to start at some point. So maybe start with this. We'll see. But book one, Rendezvous with Rama, 1973. Human explorers board a giant cylindrical alien vessel, finding cities and corridors, but no signs of life. The eerie silence raises more questions than it answers. So maybe there's a mystery aspect as well here in this first book. That sounds really cool, man. Just seeing the unfolding of this sort of hard sci-fi, this mystery of seeing, I would imagine, science and that evidence and searching for the truth through that systematic scientific method. I think that would sound really cool. I'm a scientist myself, right? I'm a PhD student. This is, right in my wheelhouse, and a different field, obviously, than like alien technology. But I'm sure I'll be able to relate in at least some ways to that process of slowly but systematically seeking the truth. So that sounds cool. That's all I got on this list, man. There's not a whole lot here that I've unpacked from the 70s here on my TBR list. So if you've read some stuff from the 70s, hit me up. Add to my list. Let me know what I'm missing out on. I'm sure there's it's 10 years, right? I'm sure there's a ton of awesome stuff that came out then that I'm just missing out on. So let me know. If you like the video, hit that thumbs up button. If you like the channel, you like what I'm doing here, you want to hang out more, hit subscribe, join the NLR community. Biggest thing here is to talk to me in the comments. Talk to me on the Discord. We got that linked in the description below. I always forget to mention that. We got the Discord link down there. So hang out with me in there. Hang out with some other friends in there. Build a community. Let's have a great time. And I'll become friends. That's what I want. Just a bunch of cool, nerdy friends. Thanks for watching. See you next time.